All right, we should be up and running here on both streams, and we'll go over the market, talk about today's play on the MTNB, talk about play selection a little bit, as well as pattern and stop selection. All right, so I think that's something that certain plays and certain stocks give you a little bit of a harder time when it comes to deciding where to put the stop, which is important because it also tells you how to size your stop. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. This is Ifan from the Strategic Day Trader, and this is your market wrap for December 30th, 2020. Q's going to close here flat on the day. Closing the same as yesterday, and SPY basically flat up a little bit. Coming into today, bullish on the Qs and SPY. Okay. I talked about yesterday, I had people asking me because the SPY was down a little bit, Qs. They had also kind of gotten sold from the gap up. Should we expect the market to gap down? And the answer is I don't think so, because trying to predict gap downs when the market is in an uptrend on every time frame seems like a pretty tough task to do. So my advice was, I don't think so. I don't think you should be shorting the Qs at the end of the day. Now, maybe you had a different management style. Maybe you waited until, it got sold at the open and then you're able to cover, break even or something like that. But, no doubt about it, market gapped up in the morning. And going into tomorrow, still going to be bullish on the Qs and SPY. Okay. What I'll need to see, is a break of this hourly uptrend and then a rally and a retest. So we'd have to rally and then come back to the lows before I would lose that bullish bias. In other words, I need a downtrend in the hourly first, okay? And we're going to need a downtrend in the hourly first before the daily goes into a downtrend. We'll need a downtrend in the daily before we get a downtrend in the weekly, right? Because the smaller time frames will enter the downtrend first before the larger time frames do, barring any kind of, big catastrophic gap down, something like that, okay? So, as has been the case for weeks now, still bullish on the Qs and SPY going into tomorrow. Okay? All right, let's go over this MTNB. And I did want to use this can as well as an example here. The MTNB did like this quite a bit throughout the day. Like that it was clearing there, and then nice kind of like weekly pattern base here forming. So, I wanted to find a way into it higher. Now, there was an opportunity here initially as it was kind of breaking out the top. I know some people in the room took it, and even more impressively, right, stuck with it. And even though it came all the way back down to retest the lows, right, we're able to kind of, withhold and stick with the management. Now, for the room, those of you that joined me on the call, we got in here. Okay, and we really started stalking this thing seriously all the way back here. Okay, but I didn't like how deep the pullback was, and I didn't like that this right here, I felt like while you get a little bit of sideways action, was not a very secure stop, right? This was someone even in the room asked, can they use basically here, they said, I think 26, can they use 26 as the stop? I said it's actually okay, because you do have a nice 2-minute base here, but it's aggressive because it's not very secure. Okay, you don't have that much time spent creating this base, and you haven't really seen it get tested. So I think that's one of the tough things when it comes to picking the stop is how secure is my stop? How much am I willing to kind of tight am I willing to go in order to kind of get the first move? And especially if you go tight, let's say you play this tight base, you really need to be taking some right early, because it's probably not going to hold up, okay, if on any kind of pullback. And as you can see here, this is exactly what happened. You would have got tagged out of it as this went to 25, okay? So when you do these really tight stops, and you're especially, because this is the 2-minute, and we're well in, like a couple hours into the day when we're usually on the 5, especially if you're using a smaller time frame, then the stop is also less secure, okay? Now here's what we played, which is just a 5-minute buy setup off the 20 MA. I did use the bottom here as the stop here. So I gave it 2 cents underneath that, 23. Entry was 33. So it was a 10 cent stop. Okay. And we were in it basically until the end of the day. Okay, so I said, a few minutes before, let's go, just penny by penny. We did take half here on the initial break here, just because we'd been so patient with it. I wanted to go ahead and lock some in, and just so in case any shenanigans happen here at that point, we're really already into the last 30 minutes. At least we've already locked this play in to be a solid winner there. Okay. We did have to live through this pullback. This was probably the only place where I might have, gotten out of it, and it wouldn't have been necessarily a mistake. But what I'd already seen from it this morning told me that this kind of needs the room, right? That it's going to be a little bit whippy and it's easy to get shaken out of. So as this was coming in, I told the room, you can trail here if you want, but I'm going to wait for the 15-minute 20 MA to catch up. That's what I'm doing, okay? Sometimes that'll be the right call, sometimes it won't. Okay, in this case, it did turn out to be the right call to be able to stick with this until the end of the day and get a nicer target here at the end. Okay, so the reason that I wanted to use the can as an example, because this also gave some pretty aggressive entries in the morning here. Okay, so like let's say you were going to play over this, which is a 1 minute 1 2 3, right? You have to be aggressively looking for targets as well, because this is such a small pattern. Only a few minutes of trading really happened here, okay, to create this pattern. So, it's easy for this to get taken out, even if the can is going to be bullish, right? So if you're doing a pretty tight stop or a stop on a lower time frame, right, then you got to be a bit more aggressive in taking the patterns, because you might not live through a pullback, right? In the case of the MTNB, we're playing a 5-minute buy setup. So, this really took because here's the run up and then the pullback, an hour or so to really put this together, which is establish an uptrend and then give us the pullback. Even if you go, well, what about just the buy setup formation here? The minimum here is 15 minutes. And then by the time kind of it triggers, probably closer to 20 minutes, right? And that's going to be a lot more time and a lot more trading going on to put this pattern together than kind of the little base that you had here on the 2 minute, right? So, I mean, it's easy to understand when you think about how many failure patterns in a day are there going to be on a 1 minute chart, how many failure patterns are there going to be on a 2 and a 5, right? So on and so forth. There's going to be a lot more failure patterns on a 1 minute throughout the day. So, if you're going to do something on a larger time frame, which 5 minute is almost the biggest time frame that we use for day trading, really 15 minutes the only bigger one, then usually that stop's going to be a lot more secure and should be able to withstand a pullback if the uptrend is going to continue. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. All right, that's going to do it for today's market wrap. Hope you did well today. Again, this week I feel like it's all about being selective, not trying to invent plays, and also not trying to get impatient. So hopefully you're able to do that. If your plays are there and they're there in abundance, by all means, keep at it. But I think this kind of week is definitely not the time to be taking big down days or over trading, really. Of course, it's never a good time to be having big down days, but some days are going to give you more opportunities to recover than others. I don't feel like this time period between Christmas and New Year's gives you a lot of opportunities. Okay, so hopefully, keeping losses small. If you're having a down day, keep that small as well. Okay, all right. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a good rest of the day.